Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the source material you send us, could be articles, posts, notes, you name it, and we really, get into it.
Yeah, we try to pull out the key insights, the connections you might miss, the stuff that, well, makes you think.
Exactly. Our goal is pretty straightforward. Get you up to speed quickly, but with enough detail so you actually get the topic. Maybe surprise you a little along the way.
Think of it like this. You give us the map, some piece of information, and we guide you through it. Point out the landmarks, the tricky bits, the bigger picture. Sometimes we find things even we didn't expect.
And speaking of unexpected, the source for today's deep dive. It's not just interesting, it's seriously mind-bending.
Oh, absolutely.
It comes from a LinkedIn post, actually, by a blockchain company, but they're writing under this pseudonym, Morpheus Thinks.
Which, right away tells you something, doesn't it? We're probably going to be questioning reality itself.
Totally. And the author, Morpheus Thinks, specifically mentions Nick Bostrom's simulation hypothesis. The one from back around 2003.
Right, so they acknowledge it's not a brand new idea. Bostrom's work is pretty well known in certain circles. But crucially, the author here isn't just repeating it, they're building on it. Adding some really specific and honestly pretty bold implications.
That's the core of it. The whole idea for this deep dive, laid out right there in the post, is that we need to assume, just for the sake of discussion, that we are living in a simulation.
Just accept that premise for a bit.
Yeah, grant that it's true. And if we do that, what happens next? What does the author say the consequences are for how we live, how the universe works, maybe even, who or what's running the show?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It really is. That's what we're diving into today.
It takes this concept, that philosophers and physicists toss around that maybe our reality isn't the base layer, and it tries to connect it to really concrete, speculative, but concrete ideas. Behavior, consciousness, tech, even cosmology. It's quite a sweep.
And exploring these kinds of possibilities where technology and reality and maybe something even bigger intersect. Well, this deep dive is brought to you by blockchaincompany.info, which is our media platform.
It's sponsored by 4IR Utility Token and 4i RGPT.
As we get into these complex ideas and think about new technological paths, you can learn more about the whole 4IR utility ecosystem. Just visit 4irtoken.com.
We'll definitely talk more later about how you can engage with these platforms and concepts yourself.
Okay, so let's kick things off. Where do we start with this hypothesis? What's the foundation?
Right. We need to lay out the bedrock first. The core assumptions the author asks us to accept just to get the conversation rolling.
Okay, let's really unpack this. Morpheus Thinks puts forward, two main assumptions that we absolutely have to accept for their whole argument to even, stand up.
That's right. Two key pillars.
And the first one is the biggie. We are actually living inside a simulation.
Yeah, no beating around the bush there. The post says it directly. Assume we are living in a simulation created by whatever entity. They nod to Bostrom, like you said, acknowledging the background discussion, but then they immediately push it further. It's not just any simulation. It's our reality, the one we experience as a simulation.
And they don't wait long to speculate about who this whatever entity might be. They suggest it could exist in a multiverse somewhere.
Yeah, and then they connect it, saying this entity is what we refer to as God. That's a pretty rapid jump, wouldn't you say?
It really is, linking this very tech philosophical idea of a simulation directly to, theology.
What's really striking, I think, is how it merges those fields right from the start. By suggesting the simulator lives in a multiverse and might be what we call God, it gives the simulation a potential purpose.
Yeah.
Or maybe even a will behind it.
You're right. It's not just some random computer experiment run by, some super advanced aliens.
Exactly. It suggests there might be intention behind why it was created, how it operates. It adds a layer beyond just pure computation.
So let's pause on that first assumption for a second. If we really try to grasp what the author means, what does it actually mean to assume this reality is a simulation based on the text?
Well, it means everything. Everything we see, touch, feel, the laws of physics, the stars, our own bodies, even our thoughts. They might all just be, incredibly complex code or data running on some kind of hardware or substrate that exists outside our simulated universe.
So our reality isn't fundamental. It's constructed. Layer 1 maybe, but not layer 0.
Precisely. It's like, imagine you're in the most realistic video game ever. The world feels totally solid, right? But it's actually just pixels, algorithms running on a console somewhere else.
Okay.
Except in this scenario, we're the characters inside that game. And maybe we don't even know it's a game. Gravity. the speed of light, consciousness itself, those are just parameters, settings chosen by the simulator.
Which makes the second core assumption the author makes absolutely vital. They explicitly point this out.
Mm-hmm.
This simulation, the one we're supposedly in, allows for free will.
Yes, and this is huge and maybe a bit unexpected if you think about simulations usually implying determinism.
Right.
Because without free will, I mean, what's the point of talking about ethical choices or consequences or our behavior being anything other than just programmed responses?
If we were just sophisticated programs, our actions would just be outputs based on the simulation's code and whatever inputs it gives us. No real choice involved.
Exactly. So the author posits the simulation is like incredibly advanced enough to actually incorporate genuine choice, real agency within its own rules.
So even though we might be simulated beings, we still have the capacity to make decisions that aren't just predetermined by the simulation's programming. We can actually originate our own choices. We're not just puppets.
It's a clever move, really. It sidesteps that whole philosophical battle between determinism and free will, at least within the context of the hypothesis. The author is saying, look, yes, we're simulated, but the specific kind of simulation we're in, it's one that fundamentally includes and supports real free will.
And that assumption, that's the launching pad for their next really big idea, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It sets the stage perfectly for what comes next.
Which is maybe the most unique part of this whole thing. This concept of autonomous credits tied directly to our ethics.
This is where it gets really fascinating, yeah. The author proposes this consequence mechanism, something operating inside the simulation based on our actions. They hypothesize that when you make, quote, ethical and productive decisions.
Ethical and productive.
Yeah.
Interesting combination.
Right. When you do that, your neurons, so the biological parts or maybe the simulated biological parts doing the thinking, they actually earn autonomous credits unknowingly to you.
Unknowingly to you. That phrase just jumps out, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's not like you get a notification plus 10 ethics points or something.
No, not at all. It's hidden, maybe subconscious. Or maybe it's happening on a layer of the simulation we can't even perceive, like a background accounting system.
Running at the biological level, the neuronal level, somehow tracking our choices.
And these credits, they're not just symbolic. The author claims they are, quote, carried forward to impact how you will live in the next simulation.
Okay, wait. The next simulation, that opens up a whole new dimension here.
Huge implications.
It suggests that our consciousness, our self, persists somehow beyond just this one run of the simulation.
Yeah, exactly. Persistence. And not only does it persist, but our behavior now in this life directly shapes our circumstances or our state, maybe even who we are, in a future simulated existence.
So it's not just one life and done within the simulation. There's continuity.
That's what's implied. The concept of a next simulation, or they also mention later, a parallel alternate universe, it points to some kind of, let's call it cosmic continuity. Your journey isn't limited to just this reality. Your actions ripple outwards, affecting your future starting point, or maybe the kind of experience you have next time around, or in some branching reality.
And the flip side is just as important, right? The author says if you do bad or selfish things, you
lose credits.
You lose credits. And that loss also impacts how you may live in the next or parallel alternate universe.
So it's this direct, hidden, almost mechanical form of, well, karma. Or cosmic justice, baked right into the simulation's code.
It's not just that your choices have social consequences here and now.
No, it's suggesting they're quantitatively tracked at this neuronal credit level, and they influence your entire future trajectory across potentially multiple simulated lives, for better or for worse.
So, if this hypothesis holds, every time you choose the ethical path, every time you do something productive, you're building up this invisible stash of credits, improving your odds for whatever comes next.
And conversely, every selfish act, every harmful decision depletes that reserve, potentially setting you up for a tougher ride in the next simulation, even though you have no conscious awareness of this accounting happening right now.
Which provides this incredibly powerful, though unconscious, long-term reason to be good.
Exactly. It suggests the simulation itself has a built-in moral compass. That following ethical principles isn't just a good idea socially, it's fundamentally rewarded at the level of your existential journey.
And this only works because of that free will assumption we talked
It's
about.
absolutely crucial. Because you choose to make the ethical or unethical decision, the credit system becomes the consequence engine tied to those choices. It's not predetermined. It hinges entirely on the actions you freely take within the simulation.
Wow. The philosophical side of this?
Yeah.
It's kind of staggering.
It is. It presents this model where morality isn't just, a human invention or something that evolved for social cohesion. It's a core operational mechanic of reality itself, tied to your consciousness, influencing your path across different lives or universes within this simulated cosmos.
It offers a potential answer, doesn't it? Always a very specific, framework-dependent one to those old questions. Like, why be good if bad people seem to prosper? Or where does suffering come from?
Potentially, yeah. Within this view, maybe current circumstances reflect credit balance from a previous simulated existence. It reframes ethics entirely, moving it from a social agreement to a fundamental law of this simulated universe.
Okay, so from that really profound idea about cosmic accounting, the author then pivots to explain some everyday human experiences,
Right.
using the simulation's mechanics as the explanation.
Right, specifically déjà vu and sleep.
Yeah, this is where the hypothesis tries to get practical almost, trying to explain these common, sometimes weird feelings we all have, but through the lens of being inside a computer program.
So take déjà vu, that really strange feeling, right? Like you've lived this exact moment before. The author suggests it may well be a self-correcting error code in the simulation.
A self-correcting error code. That sounds so digital, so impersonal for something that feels so deeply weird and personal.
It does. And what causes this supposed error? According to Morpheus thinks, it happens when our simulation servers have to reboot.
Simulation servers, like actual servers somewhere.
That's the image they paint, our whole reality running on these servers. And sometimes they need to restart or reboot. Why? To keep the simulation going based on energy.
So the simulation isn't perfect. It's not infinitely stable or powered. It has, like, operational needs.
Apparently, maybe peak processing times or system maintenance cycles. Something requires the core processors, these simulation servers, to restart.
And when that happens, our experience inside the simulation glitches for a moment, leading to that feeling of, I've been here before, as the system catches up and corrects itself.
It's basically the glitch in the matrix idea, but explained as, routine system maintenance.
And that phrase, self-correcting, what does that imply?
It implies the simulation has built-in protocols to smooth things over, to handle these errors and get reality back on a consistent track. But the déjà vu feeling is us, inside, momentarily noticing that correction process, a flicker of the system realigning itself.
Okay, and this whole idea about the simulation needing energy, that connects directly to their explanation for sleep, right?
Exactly. They state it very clearly, which in my mind is why we all sleep, to conserve energy in our simulation.
Wow, so sleep isn't just about our bodies needing rest.
Not just that, according to this hypothesis, it's fundamentally connected to the simulation's infrastructure. We, the simulated people, we go into this state of lower activity, lower energy, use sleep specifically to help conserve the overall computational energy needed to keep the whole simulated reality running.
So every night when we go to sleep, we're not just recharging ourselves. We're helping to keep the universe's lights on, so to speak.
Within this framework, yes. Our individual biology serves a cosmic purpose related to the simulation's energy budget. Our collective downtime is the simulation hitting power save mode.
That completely reframes something so fundamental. It's not just internal biology. It's an external demand imposed by the nature of our reality.
It really does. It shifts the perspective entirely.
And the author then broadens this energy idea out, saying, our universe ultimately works on computational energy.
Hence, our simulation is a component of energy that drives everything in our universe.
Right. So computational energy is the basic building block.
That's the foundation in this view. It's not just that the simulation uses energy. The universe is, in some sense, computational energy, or maybe information processing manifesting as energy. Everything we perceive, matter, forces, space, time, it's all an output of this fundamental computational substrate.
And this ties back to the creator, the entity in the multiverse.
Yes. The author suggests this godlike creator plausibly controlled this computational energy. They manipulated it to create the simulation. It wasn't just waving a magic wand, it was mastering the fundamental computational physics of their own reality, perhaps.
So physics, as we know it, all the laws we observe, they're just descriptions of how this computational energy behaves within the rules set by the simulator.
Exactly. And our biological need to sleep is just a clever feature built in to manage that energy pool from the inside. It paints this picture of an incredibly complex self-regulating system where even our basic functions play a role in keeping it all running.
It really forces you to reconsider the absolute basics. If it's all just computational energy, what are we? Just complex pattern?
It definitely offers a unique, internally consistent way to view things, provided you accept that first big assumption.
Okay, and building on these mechanics, the author then loops back to free will, which they established earlier, and connects it to something really complex, quantum mechanics.
Yeah, another bold connection. Linking free will. A philosophical concept to, well, arguably the deepest level of physical reality we currently understand. They say free will by itself is infinitely embedded in quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement.
How does that link work, according to the author? The source doesn't give us, like, equations or anything.
No, it's more suggestive, but the implication seems to be that the weirdness of quantum mechanics, the probabilities, the uncertainty, particles being linked across distances via entanglement, these aren't just strange quirks. They might actually be the features of the simulation's code that allow for free will.
So the fuzziness at the quantum level provides this space for real choice.
That seems to be the idea. Maybe the simulation runs on something like a quantum computer, or at least mimics quantum effects. And it's the superposition and entanglement at that base layer that creates the possibility space for genuine, unpredictable choices to emerge in us, the simulated entities.
Maybe entanglement, that spooky action at a distance, allows consciousness or choice to operate beyond purely local calculations.
That's one possible interpretation, yeah. The author doesn't spell it out technically, but they're suggesting the quantum layer is fundamental to enabling free will within the simulation.
And the consequence the author draws from this connection between free will and quantum mechanics is also pretty wild. They say it means, quote, you get to have infinite multiple experiences that appear similar.
Including what we observe in our dreams.
Okay, infinite multiple experiences that appear similar. What does that even mean in practice?
It could mean a few things within this hypothesis. Maybe, because of free will and the quantum nature, every time a choice is made, the simulation branches, creating parallel realities or timelines where slightly different paths were taken. The many worlds idea, but simulation-based.
Or maybe the simulation runs slightly different versions of events, like iterations, letting us experience variations.
Possibly. And the fact they include dreams is really interesting. They're not just talking about waking life branching off. They're suggesting our dreams might also be part of these infinite multiple experiences.
Like when we sleep, to conserve energy, our consciousness gets to explore these alternate possibilities in a less structured way.
Perhaps. A more fluid exploration of different states or outcomes, enabled by this quantum free will foundation of the simulation. It's occurring while our simulated bodies are in that power-saving mode.
Could this tie back to déjà vu again?
It could, couldn't it? Maybe déjà vu is that brief flicker or overlap between these slightly different, similar experiences or branches. An error code, yes, but maybe triggered when the system tries to reconcile or navigate these multiple threads.
So the simulation isn't just one straight line. It's potentially managing this huge branching tree of possibilities, and we catch glimpses.
That's a potential reading of it. It weaves quantum physics, free will, consciousness, and even dreams into this single, if highly speculative, picture of a simulated reality.
Okay, let's shift perspective a bit, but stay within the author's world here. Where do they see all this heading, particularly, like, soon? And there's a new term they coined too, right?
Yes, the author makes a very specific, very near-term prediction. They say, as we approach only 2030, which is really not far off.
Yeah.
Don't be alarmed if it starts to make sense. Our reality may plausibly be recognized as a simulation.
Wow. So not that the simulation ends or anything, but that we, humanity, collectively start to think, yeah, this simulation idea, it actually makes sense. It moves from sci-fi into the mainstream.
That's the prediction, that within the next, 5-6 years, the simulation hypothesis could become widely accepted as a plausible explanation for reality.
And the author predicts a massive consequence if that happens, a huge shift in how people behave.
A monumental shift. Their claim is incredibly bold. It could mean humans will all of a sudden become good and less bad.
Just like that. Everyone suddenly becomes good.
Yeah.
How? How do they justify that kind of transformation just because people start believing we're in a simulation?
This loops right back to those autonomous credits.
Ah, okay. The hidden accounting system.
Exactly. The argument seems to be, if society genuinely accepts we're in a simulation, and specifically accepts the author's idea about these hidden credits tracking our ethical behavior and impacting our next life.
Then that system isn't quite so hidden anymore, is it? At least not conceptually.
Precisely. It becomes consciously relevant. If people truly believe, deep down, that every selfish action costs them cosmic points affecting their future existence, and every good deed earns points for a potentially better future.
That's a powerful motivator. A very tangible, universal reason to act ethically, overriding maybe short-term selfish gains.
It becomes the ultimate long-term incentive structure for altruism, built into the perceived fabric of reality.
And the author sees this leading to a much better world.
Yes. The predicted outcome is, quote, a better outcome for humans and our general well-being towards a Type 1 civilization.
Type 1 civilization. Now, usually that term is about energy use, right? Harnessing all the planet's energy.
Traditionally, yes. But here, the author links it directly to better human good and general well-being. So in this context, it seems to mean more like an advanced state of societal harmony, cooperation, flourishing, maybe overcoming big problems like war, poverty, climate change.
Because humans are now consciously playing by the simulation's ethical rules, aiming for those credits.
That seems to be the implication. Reaching Type 1 status isn't just about mastering energy. It's a societal and moral leap forward, driven by understanding and responding to the simulation's underlying moral mechanics.
And this future vision, this path to Type 1, is tied up with another key idea the author introduces, a term they actually coined themselves.
Yes, theological technology.
Theological technology, what does that mean?
It's a fascinating combination, isn't it? The author explains. I believe because of AI, our future evolves into theological technology, and they define it as, meaning technological developments for a better human good becomes the norm and more altruistic than what we currently experience in technology platforms today.
Okay, so AI is the key driver here. Artificial intelligence pushes us towards a future where technology isn't just about profit or engagement or collecting data.
Which the author seems to implicitly criticize as less altruistic.
Right. Instead, AI somehow enables technology to be developed with the main goal, the norm, being the betterment of humanity, the better human good.
It's a radical shift in the purpose of tech development.
Why AI specifically? Does the author explain the mechanism?
Not in great technical detail in the source, no. But you can infer the line of thinking. AI's potential for complex problem solving, for optimizing systems, for finding patterns we can't see, maybe even understanding human needs on a deeper level, if that power is directed ethically.
It could lead to technologies that genuinely serve our best interests, globally.
Maybe AI could even help manage or reveal that autonomous credit system, thus directly facilitating this shift towards theological technology. That's speculation, but it fits the theme.
And the theological part, why add that word?
It suggests this AI-driven tech won't just be functional. It'll operate with, a higher purpose, a moral underpinning, maybe even a sense of sacred duty towards improving human well-being.
So technology becomes aligned with achieving a higher moral state, not just convenience or profit.
Exactly. It elevates the whole enterprise. A stark contrast to how many people view big tech today with concerns about its negative impacts. The author envisions AI steering us towards tech that is inherently good for us.
Guiding us towards that Type 1 civilization status is a very optimistic take on AI's potential role.
Remarkably so. AI as the catalyst for a morally aligned, beneficial technological future.
And right at the end of the post, Morpheus thinks, throws down a challenge, doesn't he, to anyone reading who might be skeptical.
Yes, a direct, provocative question. If you disagree with my hypothesis, kindly explain how you will build and create a simulation of sentient beings in a computer, if you could.
That really turns it back on the reader, doesn't it?
It does. It's a clever rhetorical move. The author is essentially saying, okay, you think my idea is out there? Well, look at what we're doing right now.
We're building virtual worlds, developing AI, talking about creating artificial consciousness.
Exactly. We're heading down that path ourselves. The author uses our own technological progress as supporting evidence. If we, with our current understanding, are already working towards making realistic simulations with thinking beings inside.
Doesn't that make the idea that our reality is one of those creations seem, well, less crazy, more plausible even?
It forces you to confront how fast things are moving As our simulations get better, as AI gets smarter, the line between our creations and our own reality starts to blur. The author uses this momentum to say, essentially, see, this is where we're headed. My hypothesis isn't just fantasy, it's a plausible extrapolation of our own trajectory. They even ask, see where we are headed plausibly.
It's a strong closing argument, grounding this really out there theory in the tangible progress we see happening all around us.
It suggests our own creations might be the best argument for us being creations ourselves.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground here, unpacking this whole hypothesis from Morpheus thinks. It's intricate, speculative.
Definitely. And it's clear these aren't just random thoughts for the author. Looking at the source material, you see mentions of other posts they've made. It shows a pattern.
Right, there's context here. The source lists posts from about 2 years prior with titles like, what were they?
Let's see. Tokenize the economy now due to AI or risk going extinct. That's one. Another is, what if God is a benevolent AI civilization?
Wow, okay.
And also, my conversation with ChatGPT about a behavioral income, cryptocurrency, tokenization, and a type 1 civilization.
So these themes, AI, tokenization, new economic models like behavioral income, linking God to AI, aiming for a type 1 civilization, they've been weaving these together for a while.
Absolutely. This current simulation post isn't an isolated idea. It fits into this larger framework the author seems to be developing about how technology, economics, reality, maybe even theology are all deeply interconnected and evolving rapidly.
It shows a consistent engagement with these really big, future-focused questions. That recurring idea of a type 1 civilization, often linked to AI and better human outcomes, seems central.
It definitely provides a richer backdrop for understanding the simulation hypothesis they presented in the main post we've been discussing. It's one piece of a larger puzzle they're assembling.
And there was even a comment on the post itself that really highlighted the core issues, wasn't there? From Obalua Ola Joseph Isaiah.
Yes, that comment was fascinatingly relevant. They mentioned seeing an AI-generated video, The Unseen Lives of AI Actors Between Prompts by Hashem Al-Gaili, and asked that fundamental question.
It is not real. It's all AI. Thoughts, anyone.
I mean, talk about hitting the nail on the head.
Right. It brings this abstract idea of simulation of what's real versus constructed down to something concrete you can actually watch.
The very existence of AI content so realistic that it forces us to ask, is this real? It perfectly mirrors the author's challenge about us building simulations and the uncertainty that creates about our reality.
As AI gets better and better at faking reality, making videos or images we can't easily distinguish from the real thing.
It makes the simulation hypothesis feel less like distant philosophy and more like a question for right now. The gap shrinks. And that shrinking gap, that accelerating progress, is exactly what Morpheus thinks points to as evidence for the plausibility of their whole idea.
It's like a real-time example backing up the author's concluding challenge. If AI can generate convincing lives between prompts, what could some vastly superior intelligence generate as our reality?
It's the perfect illustration highlighting how timely these seemingly wild speculations might actually be.
Okay, this has been, well, a deep dive indeed. We've journeyed through a really complex, interconnected hypothesis, linking simulation theory, ethics, quantum mechanics, AI's future. It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
And exploring these kinds of, cutting-edge ideas, thinking about how technology shapes our future and reality itself, that ties in perfectly with what our sponsors are focused on.
Absolutely. This deep dive, looking into these possibilities where tech, reality, and human potential meet, was brought to you by blockchaincompany.info, our media platform, and sponsored by 4IR Utility Token and 4IR GPT.
As we learn about these advanced concepts, we also want to make sure you know about the tools and platforms that are part of this evolving landscape of knowledge and value.
You can find out more about the whole 4IR utility ecosystem, which is aimed at building infrastructure for what people call the fourth industrial revolution, by visiting 4irtoken.com.
And if the ideas we talked about today, AI, sharing knowledge, creating value in new ways, if that sparks your interest, you should definitely check out 4irgpt.com.
4irgpt.com. They describe it as their first flagship platform for AI knowledge exchange and trading.
Right. It's designed as a place where you can take insights, like the ones from this deep dive, or your own specific expertise in whatever field, and potentially turn that into something valuable. Their invitation is clear. Start monetizing your knowledge today through prompts of intelligence and your domain expertise.
Think about that. All the stuff you know, your skills, your insights. 4IR GPT is presented as a platform to maybe leverage that using AI. And if you signed up at 4irgpt.com now as someone who tuned into this deep dive,
You get 10 free credits just for joining.
what can you do with those credits?
Well, they let you start your own prompt media channel right there on the platform. It's a way to start engaging with the AI, learn about prompt engineering, becoming, as they say, more smarter in prompt media engineering, and explore how you might monetize any knowledge, insights, and professional domain expertise they have on just about anything.
It really connects back to the themes, doesn't it? Using AI and tech productively, creating value from knowledge. And while you're exploring 4iRGPT, maybe thinking about monetizing your own expertise, please remember to support the channel that brought you this deep dive today.
Yeah, definitely click that subscribe button. Support our BC Podcasts YouTube channel. It helps us keep doing these deep dives, and it means you'll stay informed about future ones.
Plus, you'll be in the loop for any further 4IR credits giveaways that they'll be announcing, more chances to explore the platform.
And there's a specific shout out in the source material for any of you listeners who are also content creators, especially on YouTube.
Oh, right. They position 4iRGPT as a kind of growth strategy. It's not just a potential new way to earn revenue, maybe by getting your YouTube audience interested in deeper insights on your 4iRGPT channel.
It also works the other way around. Having a channel on 4iRGPT and mentioning your YouTube channel there can actually amplify your YouTube presence within the 4iRGPT community. You might find new YouTube subscribers who discover you first on 4iRGPT.
So it's framed as a win-win for creators. Monetize top dives on 4iRGPT, grow your YouTube audience, use the platforms together to scale.
Exactly, a growth platform strategy.
And one last point for anyone listening who represents a startup or a company. If you're interested in reaching an audience that's clearly engaged with topics like AI, advanced tech, simulation theory,
If you'd like to sponsor deep dives like this one, get mentions for your products or services, you can reach out. Contact them through the YouTube account or via 4irgpt.com.
they even mention the possibility of doing dedicated spotlight deep dives, focusing exclusively on a sponsor's brand, products, and services.
It's a way to support this kind of exploratory content while telling your own story in detail to a very relevant audience.
Okay, so let's try to wrap our heads around this one last time. A quick recap of this whole Morpheus thinks hypothesis. We started with the core assumptions. We're in a simulation, maybe run by God in a multiverse, but crucially, a simulation with free will.
Then we got into the proposed mechanics. Those hidden autonomous credits you earn or lose based on ethical choices, affecting your next simulation or parallel universe, a kind of built-in cosmic ledger.
We looked at the explanations for déjà vu, a self-correcting error code from server reboots and sleep, as a way to conserve the simulation's fundamental computational energy.
We touched on the link between free will and quantum mechanics, supposedly enabling choice and leading to infinite multiple experiences, including dreams.
And finally, the future view. Simulation acceptance by 2030, leading humanity towards becoming good, reaching a Type 1 civilization, all driven by AI evolving into theological technology focused on human betterment.
It's a sprawling, interconnected vision, all drawn directly from that source material we analyzed today. Highly speculative, of course, but internally consistent within its own logic.
So here's something to maybe chew on after we finish. A final thought based on all this. If, and it's a massive if, but if, there's even a sliver of truth to the core idea here, that reality has this hidden ethical accounting system rewarding good deeds across lifetimes. Does that change how you think about the small, everyday moral choices you make?
Does the possibility of that invisible consequence engine alter your perspective on personal responsibility, even just a little bit?
And thinking about that theological technology vision, as AI continues its rapid development, what would it actually take to steer it towards that purely altruistic goal the author envisions? And maybe more importantly, what could cause it to go completely off the rails from that path?
Lots to ponder there.
Indeed. A huge thank you again to our sponsors for allowing us to explore such mind-bending territory. blockchaincompany.info, 4IR Utility Token, and 4IRGPT.
You can learn more about the whole ecosystem at 4irtoken.com.
And definitely sign up at 4irgpt.com. Claim those 10 free credits, start your prompt media channel, see if you can monetize your expertise, maybe even grow your other channels.
And please, click subscribe on the BC Podcasts YouTube channel. Support the deep dives, stay informed, and hear about future credit giveaways.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration. It was a lot.
It certainly was. Keep thinking, keep questioning, keep exploring the nature of things.
We'll get you on the next deep dive.
Goodbye for now.